Thank you for tuning in to Macroview Television, and welcome to another edition of the Taiwan Outlook, the program that lets you hear the different voices of Taiwan. I'm your host and moderator, Wu Ruiguo. When you talk about Germany in Taiwan, you often think about the expensive cars you see on the street or some of the designer stuff that you see in the stores. However, do you know that recently Taiwan has signed a cooperation agreement with Germany in the areas of literature exchange and also culture? And on today's program, we're delighted to have Mr. Chen, who is an actor, a writer, and also a journalist who has been living in Germany for 6 years, to share with us his observations of this country and much more. Welcome to the program, Kevin.
Hello, thank you for having me here.
Well, it's a delight to have you here on the program. First, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? As I explained at the beginning of the program, you're an actor, you're a writer, and you're also a journalist. And you've been living in Germany for 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Why Germany?
Because, well, I think because I live in Berlin, probably elsewhere in Germany probably wouldn't work for me.
Okay.
But I really love Berlin because Berlin has a lot to offer in terms of arts, in terms of literature. The artistic landscape in the city is just wonderful. So it's just...
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's the right city for me. If it's another city, let's say Frankfurt, Hamburg, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
So I would say it's more Berlin instead of the big Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you miss Taiwan?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
And how often do you come back?
once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And it's lovely, really. I do love it here.
Well, certainly at this time of the year, you get away from the cold.
Yeah.
Yes, and come back to a little warmer climates in
At this
Taiwan.
point, there's blizzard and heavy snow in Germany, so I just really enjoy this lovely weather in Taiwan.
Okay. And Kevin, also I mentioned at the beginning of the program that Taiwan recently signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with Germany, in terms of literature exchange and cultural exchange. And the program states that there will be 9 writers selected to have a long stay of up to 1 month in Germany. And for somebody like yourself, who has been living and working in Germany, in Berlin, for 6 years, what do you think about such a program?
That's when I got the email from Wenxin Literary Magazine,
Yes.
which is a kind of an important magazine of literature in Taiwan. When they emailed me and they told me if I could help to guide the writers from Taiwan to find their ways in Berlin, I was just so thrilled. I was just telling myself that this is finally happening. Because the situation is that, okay, in Taiwan, like I spend a lot of time in the bookstores in Taiwan, every time I'm in Taiwan. And I can always find a lot of translations of German literatures, and they're wonderful translations in these bookstores. And they're just, it's really common to find that. However, on the other side, I mean, in Germany, it's really difficult to find translated text from Taiwanese literature.
Oh, okay.
So I think this memorandum it's just so wonderful that it actually brings 9 important Taiwanese writers. These are established writers from Taiwan directly to Berlin, and they stay there for a month. And there they can meet publishers. They can. They can do readings, they can do forums. And through that, I do believe that literature is a great, wonderful door for people to understand a city, a town, a village, an island, a country like Taiwan.
Okay.
So through these 9 writers, I'm sure that this will bring a lot of Germans to understand Taiwan in a better way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of the 9, writers to be selected, there's already been how many been to Germany already?
2 so far.
Just 2.
2.
Okay. Then we'll talk about that in a later part of the program. But given the fact that these writers will be, in the next 2 years, go to Germany for a month stay each time, and how would you think that, besides of their own work and their own writings in the past, how would you think by exposing themselves to the literature public in Germany, would that help in terms of the mutual cooperation and relationship between the writing communities in Germany and in Taiwan?
I do believe so.
Okay.
Because we're sending writers, Taiwanese writers,
okay.
to go to Berlin to stay there for a month. But they don't just stay in Berlin.
Okay.
They travel in Germany. They go to Hamburg. They go to Heidelberg. They go to Leipzig. They go to different cities to do readings.
Okay.
And they also go to the book fairs.
Okay.
And Germany actually sends translators.
All right.
Those translators who translate Chinese text into German or the other way.
Okay.
And they actually send them to Taipei, to Taiwan, to spend some time here, to
Okay.
get to know writers, to get to know publishers. So this is a wonderful mutual communication, and it's finally happening.
All right.
And I do hope that this whole memorandum can really. Finally make the Taiwanese literature finally, how do you say that, noticeable or known in Germany.
All right. And for the general public, how would you think such a MOU between Germany and Taiwan will help in terms of the mutual understanding between the peoples, between the cultures?
Well, I have to say something that I live in Germany, and people always ask me, where are you from?
Yes.
And I always say, I'm from Taiwan.
Okay.
And a lot of times I actually get the answers, okay, when I say I'm from Taiwan, they always say, yeah, Taiwan, yeah, Bangkok.
Yes.
That's a lovely city. Yes. And it's just, ironically, I always answer, yes, the city and the capital of Taiwan is Bangkok, indeed, yeah. So I do believe that for the general public, it actually creates a better understanding for them that what is Taiwan? Where exactly is Taiwan? What is the capital? And through reading these texts, these books, they can finally have a better idea of the map.
Yes.
Like Taiwan is right here.
Okay.
It's not Thailand. There's a big difference.
Big difference, yes. And based on your own experience, Kevin, you picked Germany because when you visited Berlin some 10, 15 years ago, you fell in love with the city. And was it tough for you making the adjustments and the transition, to the German environment, both in terms of language, culture, and also lifestyle?
Well, it's been tough, yes, but I do enjoy this tough process.
Okay.
For example, the language. I mean,
Yes.
German. I mean, I'm sure
it's a difficult language.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's famous for being difficult, and it is difficult.
Yeah.
And it took me around 3 years when I was learning English. It took me around 3 years to be able finally to speak the language.
Okay.
And in Germany, I spent the whole year doing intensive courses, and now after 6 years, I can say that I can speak as a person instead of some machine or as some repetition sentences from the textbooks.
Yeah.
I can speak as a person. So this language part is really difficult, and the culture it's a very different culture. I mean, compared to Taiwan, where I'm from. Here in Taiwan, it's more of people are more laid back, and
Yes.
Cities are crowded, and we always have a lot of people. But there, you actually have a lot of time for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I would say that the relationship between people is more of how do you say that, alienation.
Okay.
It's not that close. I mean, in Taiwan, when I lived in Taipei, I always had a huge crowd of friends.
Of course.
And we're always together. We always hang out in karaoke or went to the
Restaurants and bars and things, yes.
We're always together. But in Berlin, in Germany, it's more of you have to be responsible for yourself. You have to deal with things by yourself.
Okay.
And that actually gave me a lot of time to finally dial it down and just to really get to know to myself. So I actually could say that Berlin, the city, actually helped me to get to know me in a better way.
And drawing from your own personal experience, how would you then recommend something like the MOU that's signed between Germany and Taiwan will be able to expose Taiwan better or present Taiwan better to the German public? Not just, someplace, that they mistakenly, thought that was Thailand, but someplace where, maybe their computer made from, maybe some of their, textile or some of the rubber goods, plastic goods are made from, and things. How would you think that, that perception can be changed through something like the literature MOU?
I think everybody's talking about the culture industry right now.
Yes.
I do believe that could be a way to explore in that direction,
Okay.
in a positive way. Because I mean, a lot of people, when they think about Taiwan, they think about all these IT business.
Yes.
But I do believe that we actually have
a lot more.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot more to offer. And the culture, culture can actually, if I want to get to know a country, I read their literature. And it gives me a better window, a better door to understand.
All right.
And not just that, if let's say, I have some German friends, and when they think about Taiwan, they think about, oh yeah, the computer I'm working on right now is actually from Taiwan.
Yes.
But they don't, through this, they don't get to know the country at all.
No.
They have no idea about the history, the past, or anything. So I do believe that, this kind of memorandum creates a communication.
Okay.
A door.
All right.
For both sides.
Avenue, yes.
Yes.
Before we conclude the first part of the program, Kevin, what are some of the better-known writers from Taiwan in Germany?
Okay.
Maybe Miss Long Ying-tai, for example?
Okay. Honestly speaking, I mean, this known. I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah, to measure it. Yes.
Difficult. In the past few years, only very few Taiwanese writers. I mean, their books were translated to German.
Okay.
That's very few. For example, Long Ying-tai, she two of her books were translated into German, but these are small publishers. These are independent publishers. So it's actually difficult to find her books in bookstores. For example, you have to get them on Amazon.com.
Okay.
Or some special bookstores. You have to order them.
Okay.
So it's difficult.
Not readily available at retail places.
Yes.
Okay.
And Chen Yuhui is another writer. Who got translated. Her book, 海神家族, the Mazu's Bodyguards, was translated into German as well. But again, it's a small publisher. Even though one of the biggest public TV stations actually came all the way from Germany to Taiwan, and did an interview of her.
Yeah.
On this very book.
Okay.
So it was great, but still, it was a small publisher.
Not enough.
Yeah.
It was a very small step.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
these writers. They have to work on their own, and they're quite lonely out there, actually.
Yeah.
So they actually need help from the government.
Certainly appreciate Kevin for giving us that very comprehensive background of the current, exchanges that are taking place between Germany and Taiwan in the areas of literature and culture. We're going to take a short break on our program, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation with Mr. Kevin Chen, who is currently living in Berlin, Germany, as a writer, as a journalist, and also an actor. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the second segment of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Ray Guo. We will continue this conversation with Mr. Kevin Chen, who's a writer, a journalist, and an actor who's now living in Berlin, Germany, and he's going to share with us his observations and experiences of living in a completely different culture. Kevin, we understand that out of the 9 Taiwanese writers to be selected, 2 of them have already visited Germany. One of us is, of course, Liu Keqiang. The other one is Shaman, Lampuan. Yes. What would you covered their, forum, their speaking engagements while they were in Germany. What is your impression? What is your, reaction to their performance during their long stay in Germany?
It was, I've been to all the readings and the panel discussions and the forums.
Yes.
I would say that the atmosphere was just really, really warm.
Okay.
I think these 2 writers, they can really represent Taiwan in a warm way.
All right.
Because they're both really warm-hearted people. For example, Liu Keqiang.
Okay.
He writes about nature in Taiwan. In his reading, he actually literally showed the audience what he has been drawing in Germany. He's been doing a lot of close observation on trees and flora, birds, even animal feces, everything.
Okay.
And then he just literally with his own hands did wonderful drawings on them, and he showed them.
All right.
And this actually that actually created a wonderful intimacy between the audience and him.
Okay, good.
And then he memorized all of his poems, actually. And I mean, a lot of writers, when they read, they actually had their text and they read like this. You know, sometimes
it was very one-dimensional.
Yeah, and he just memorized everything.
Yes.
And he was reading actually in Taiwanese. And you know what? When he was reading, I actually was because I was using my camera and I was doing some shots on the audience.
Okay.
And I realized that you know what? You know, language is a barrier. Yes, sometimes, a lot of times, but it actually worked at that very moment. It was kind of magical. They kind of understood that, and then he sang a little bit as well.
Terrific.
I mean, yeah. So it was wonderful. And Shyamalan,
Yes.
yeah, he did the same thing. The host actually asked him to read his own fiction in his own mother tongue, which is Dawu, the Aboriginal language on the island of Orchid, the Orchid Island, Lanyu.
Yes.
And he used his own language, and he read a little bit, and then he sang a little bit, and it was wonderful. It was actually right next to the lake in Berlin. It's called Wannsee. It's a beautiful lake, and it's a wonderful summer evening. The sunlight was pouring down on his face, and he was singing. It was almost like he's some kind of magical shaman, you know, and like everyone was spellbound or something, you know. And I really would say that was the very moment when we could say that, hey, this is the magical moment created by literature.
Okay. Yeah. And you actually felt, you know, as you were covering the events, that there was a connection between these two Taiwanese writers and the audience. Who were mostly in the audience? Were they German writers or German press or just the general public?
It actually depends. Okay, they actually have a lot of engagements in Germany.
Okay.
For example, when in Berlin, they did 2 readings. One is in a place called Literatur Colloquium Berlin. It's like it's where they live for a month actually.
Okay.
It's a beautiful mansion by the lake. And they live in there, and this is some kind of a literary association. They actually they did this reading for the writers, and so I would say for that it was more general public. You know, those people who are interested, honestly, in literature, and so they're interested in literature. So they actually read the text. And they listen carefully, and they raise questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of their questions like? Were they asking about the writers, about their work, or were they asking about Taiwan?
Oh, well, for example, when Shyamalan was doing reading, a lot of questions were about the minority situation
in Taiwan.
Yeah, because people could actually tell from his skin. Because his skin is this wonderfully dark skin, which is, I'm sure the German audience, I mean, they could really relate this to minority right away.
Of course.
Because he honestly looked different.
Okay.
So a lot of questions were about the preservation of the minority culture and about Taiwan, the relationship between the island, the Orchid Island, and the main Taiwan island.
Yes.
So these questions were actually honest, not stupid, you know. No. Yeah. So so that's why I believe that literature can really create communication. Yeah.
And we understand that reading is very popular for the writing communities in Europe. And how would you sense the difference, you know, in terms of the readings that you've participated in, you know, or attended in Europe, as to some of the similar events in Taiwan?
Okay.
How are they different?
I would say, okay. I mean, I went to some readings in Taipei when I lived in Taipei. I would say that, okay, the European culture is more of a sophisticated kind. Not in a better way, because we don't want to, do this silly comparison.
Yes,
but it's more of a mellow and sophisticated culture that people tend to be quiet.
Okay.
And indeed, for readings, you actually have to be quiet. You sit there, and it could be verging to be boring, in some cases.
Yes.
But in Taiwan, this culture is more of a expressing yourself.
Okay.
You voice yourself.
All right.
And it's more of a loud. I mean, that's honestly let's compare 2 streets. I mean, one street in Berlin and one street in Taipei, and then you see the difference.
Okay.
And I would say that doing readings in Berlin, it's really a common thing. I mean, every day you could find some readings to go to if you love literature.
Okay.
But it's not such a thing. I mean, it's not so common in Taiwan. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah.
And Kevin, you being exposed to the writing communities in both Germany and in Taiwan. Of course, you're exposed to many of the the works by the writers in the 2 cultures. How would you think the subjects of their writings. Are they so different, or are there some of these subjects overlapping? Maybe, for example, if a piece of literature work is popular, is because of the cultural background, or what's fashionable, or what's trendy at the time. Are these important factors in terms of, how literature is being perceived in these two different cultures?
Well, okay. First of all, the German literature, up to date now, they have a big history, a big chunk of history, a big past to draw on.
Okay.
For example, there the wars, the Nazi dark past, the Berlin Wall, the Cold War, and the separation and the reunification of Germany. So they have a lot to draw on.
Of course.
And in Taiwan, actually, we have a lot of this kind of inspirations to draw on as well. We do have the so-called White Terror. We have the colonialism. We have the immigration, and after 1949, and this identification thing. So I do find some similarities in between.
Good.
But the thing is, in Taiwan, the literary market is getting smaller and smaller. Writers like me, we find it more and more difficult to get published, or simply to find readers to buy our books, because we write literature instead of just some books telling you how to lose weight, some pounds, some kilos, or
how to make a few more dollars.
Yes,
and things.
Yeah. It's more of an economic approach.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have wonderful writers, though. Yeah, but it's not easy to survive when you are just, if you would like to work as a writer full time.
Yes, we've, of course, on our program, interviewed some publishers locally, before. And, when you talk about the literature business, it's nevertheless a business. So there are, of course, like you said, there may be diminished, opportunity, for people to have their works, published in Taiwan. But, the commercial viability is also a very important consideration.
Sure.
Do you also sense that in Germany today?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would say that, for example, let's talk about the newspapers. Okay.
Right.
Like in Taiwan, all the newspapers are going pop, are going bloody, are going sensational and dramatic. But in Germany, basically all the important newspapers, the so-called traditional newspapers, they still maintain to have their own style. They still have a lot of in-depth writings, and they have a lot of wonderful writers.
Good.
And of course, at the same time, they have some tabloids.
Okay.
They coexist.
Okay.
But in Taiwan, it's more like, this.
The mainstream media is now doing what the tabloid is doing, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's a totally different situation. So I cannot say which one is better.
No.
I cannot say that. But what I would say that is that if you would like to read something deeper, so the German approach might be a better option.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that the Taiwanese way is bad.
No.
Because actually I do enjoy reading Taiwanese newspaper. It's a lot of fun to read. So,
of course. But let me just ask for the final question of this part of the program, is that we look at the situation in Taiwan, and we look at the invention of electronic books. Okay, and people saying that this is the future. You're not going to see paper books, in the near, maybe 5-10 years down the line. Do you sense that in Germany?
Not so far.
Not so far.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I would say that Germans are kind of stubborn. I'm sorry. But I think they, like me, I'm Taiwanese, but I think the feeling of having a piece of paper in your hand, the smell of it.
Yes.
Yeah. This kind of
something magical.
Yeah. It's sort of different.
Cannot be replaced.
Yeah. So I would say that this electronic
revolution.
I don't see that happening in the next few years in Germany, but I do see that happening starting already in Taiwan.
In Taiwan.
Yeah.
And parts of Asia too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to take a short break on our program, and when we come back, we'll continue this very interesting conversation with Mr. Kevin Chen, who is a writer, a journalist, and also an actor living in Berlin, Germany now. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to this part of the program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Rick Guo, where we'll continue this very enlightening conversation with Mr. Chen, who is currently living in Berlin, Germany, as a writer, a journalist, and also an actor. Kevin, we want to talk about these two very important book fairs in Germany, that's held each year. One is, of course, Frankfurt. The other one is Leipzig. And would you tell us, as somebody who's living in Berlin for 6 years, and also who's a writer yourself, how important are these two book fairs in the world, literature market?
I will start with the Leipzig one.
Okay.
Because it's the second biggest one in Germany, next to the Frankfurt book fair. This one is actually more of a German literature book fair. It's not that international. And there's also one thing that is really important. It has actually the biggest, the so-called cosplay, the biggest role play in Europe. That during this book fair,
yes,
thousands and hundreds of these role play fans, these Japanese manga fans, they're actually Europeans. They come from every corner of Europe, and they just go into Leipzig to do this role playing. So that is Leipzig book fair. It's actually more of a local one. And the Frankfurt book fair is actually the biggest book fair still in the world.
All right.
And it's so important that because, for example, a lot of Taiwanese publishers, they're there every year. Why? Okay. They're looking for books to be translated into Chinese to be published in Taiwan.
Okay.
And of course, Taiwan, we as a country, we actually have a booth as well to introduce books from Taiwan. The latest publications in the past few years, hoping that other publishers from other countries will be interested in our publication.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing about literature and publication is the issue of copyright. All right, we have a lot of books that are that were written in Taiwan, but published in mainland China, for example, without the authorization.
Yeah.
And is that becoming an issue? Does the world literature community is addressing the problem, or just leaving to individual governments to deal with it?
I think copyright has been a very important issue, no matter what. So, for this, we can actually go back to this electronic revolution of books, because a lot of people are actually worried about this electronic development. Remember a few years ago, we were listening to tapes, then CD. Suddenly, some German guy invented a thing called MP3.
Yes.
So it could actually put every CD into, it just transfer the files into MP3 files, and you can share it with everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they're really scared that this thing could happen to books. So once it's digitalized, everyone can crack. For example, in Taiwan, we have so many talented engineers. It takes about 2 minutes or something to crack, this production situation. So that's something that has been hotly debated. Because when it's a book, it's actually more expensive if you just go to a copy shop to make a few copies. It's actually more expensive. But when it's digitalized, you can just download it with your fingertips, and you don't have to pay for it. That could be the beginning of the collapse of the industry.
Okay. So this is becoming a mounting concern for a lot of people. And going back to the book fairs, who have been, out of the Taiwanese writers, who have been invited to these book fairs in recent years, as far as you can remember?
Actually, quite important writers from Taiwan have been invited. For example, Long Yingtai, Zhang Dachun, Yang Zhao, Chen Yuhui. They all were invited to these book fairs, and they did readings, and they did speeches. But actually, honestly speaking, it's a very big. For example, the Frankfurt book fair. It's a very big place. It's really messy. Every country, because it's like the map of the world. Every country has a booth. Every country has their own writers. And there are always some famous writers who attract the crowds, So when you, for example, with the Taiwanese booth, when we present our Taiwanese writers, it's actually not so easy to draw big attentions. Yeah, it's not their fault, but just because it's
too many other countries around.
Yeah.
Yes,
but still these writers that they read their readings and they talk to some translators and publishers, and it's still not happening. I still don't see that happening. It should be happening sooner.
Okay.
But I don't still. I mean the thing is, a lot of German translators, when they're interested in publishing Chinese books,
yes,
they're more interested in those from China, especially those that are banned.
Yes.
So it creates some journalistic
curiosity.
Yes. So it's easier for the press release. You know. So and a lot of them don't even know where Taiwan is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's actually a tough situation for Taiwanese writers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I do suppose that for a lot of the publishers and also for our government agencies to take part in world book fairs like Frankfurt and Leipzig is because we want to be internationalized.
Yes.
Okay. And since this is, may not be the most effective way because there's so many other countries around, what would be your recommendation? Because you're being exposed to the world market probably a lot better than most of us. And what would be your recommendation other than book fairs? Any other things that we can pursue?
I don't have an answer right now, but I do say that we can make it better when we actually go to these book fairs.
Okay.
Okay, I know that the Taipei Book Fair Foundation,
yes,
because every year they're doing this, they're in charge of the book fairs, and they actually have very limited budget.
Yes.
So, the booth is actually not big compared to other countries.
No.
And they cannot invite a lot of writers, and they're trying to do their very best, but because of the limited budget from the government, they cannot do a lot. So I would say that a bigger support from the government will be appreciated.
Okay.
And honestly, culture is power. We are always talking about the engineer, the IT, and all these made in Taiwan things. But what about culture made in Taiwan?
Yes.
It's actually it's really powerful. And if you actually have seen, for example, modern dance from Taiwan, if you actually have read a book written by a Taiwanese writer, if you actually have sit down, I mean, if you just actually sit down in the cinema and appreciate a Taiwanese movie,
yes,
you will realize that, hey, you know what? It's an interesting island. It's
we
small.
have a lot of things to offer. We have a very rich culture.
Yeah, so I don't have a better solution, but I do believe in the power of culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And given the fact that, Kevin, you're also a writer yourself, what subjects do you write? I mean, what are some of the major features that you pick up from Taiwan, culturally or lifestyle-wise, that you write and become the subjects of your own works?
I would say family.
Okay.
Because I'm actually from Zhanghua, and in the middle of Taiwan, and I'm from a very small town. Remember, we didn't have any traffic light until I was 12 or something. And we were celebrating for the first traffic light in the town. Wow, traffic light. And I'm from a very big family. I have 7 sisters and I have 1 brother, and I'm the 9th kid.
You're the youngest.
Yes, because my parents actually wanted to have a son.
Yes.
So they tried 7 times. In fact, eventually they had my brother, and I wasn't more of an accident or something.
Okay, so it's a good accident.
I hope so. But coming from this special big family, actually, I do have a lot to say. So I write about what I write in my books. It's about, for example, the father-son relationship, mother-son relationship.
Okay.
In the Taiwanese traditional family context.
Okay.
So I would say that through my books, you probably could get to know a Taiwanese family, probably in a dramatic way.
Okay.
Yeah, but because my family is dramatic.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And with subject matters like what you put in your works, would that be appealing to the audience, to the reading public in Germany, for example?
I think so, actually. I myself actually was invited to do a reading once in Berlin.
Good.
And I was so scared that this would turn out to be really boring. So I asked 2 friends of mine to play some instruments for me during this reading. They play accordion and bandoneon.
Oh, okay.
And because that was a sad fiction, and so these 2 pieces of instruments actually provided wonderful sad music for my reading.
Right.
And my book is not translated into German, but I and some friends of mine, we actually worked together to translate 4 passages from my book into German. And on that day, I must say that what I wrote, obviously was connected to the audience. Yeah, that was a wonderful, wonderful evening. So I do believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the other lessons that you're able to pick up that you can share with other writers in Taiwan from your experiences in Germany?
I would say that just be true to yourself, and just if you're allowed to write, then keep going, because a lot of people out there who love to be published and they don't get published.
Okay.
So if you have that opportunity, then just really grasp the chance and just really show yourself.
Okay, good. All right. Kevin, we're going to take another final break on our program today, and then when we come back, we're going to ask Mr. Kevin Chen about the different hats that he wears other than the writer. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the final segment of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Ray Guo, where we'll continue this very interesting conversation with Mr. Kevin Chen, who is a writer, who is a journalist, and an actor living in Berlin, Germany. Kevin, I want to ask you, you're not only a writer, but also a journalist and also an actor. Can you share with us your secrets of being so multi-talented?
I don't have any secrets. Okay. I studied theater in Taiwan, in Taida.
Okay.
So I was a trained stage actor.
Okay.
And I did a lot of acting on the stage when I was in Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
Then I went to Germany. I mean, I gave up acting completely.
Really?
Yeah, I just couldn't continue because it's tough. It's tough as an actor.
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be a star or anything. I just wanted to be a theater actor, and that was very tough. And of course, my parents had some opinions about it. Yeah, and then I went to Germany, and out of the blue, I actually got offers. I mean, I made 2 films so far.
Good.
And it's a funny experience. I mean, this German director from Hamburg, Monika Teut,
yes,
who actually is completely in love with Taiwan. She made documentaries about Taiwan. And she wanted to make a feature film about Taiwan. And then she wrote the script entirely by herself, in collaboration with another writer.
Okay.
And then I was hosting actually the Taiwanese party during Berlin Film Festival.
All right.
And then after the party, she actually came to me and said, "Kevin, do you act?"
Okay.
And I said, "Sure.
Okay.
I would do anything."
Okay.
And then she gave me a part.
All right.
And a few months later, we started shooting, and I got the part, and it's just
terrific.
It's unbelievable.
So what was the movie about?
It's called Ghosted.
Okay.
It's about it's about Taipei and Hamburg.
All right.
And it's a spooky story about this. There's this month in Taiwan called Ghost Month.
Okay.
According to the moon calendar, the lunar calendar, there's this very month that all the ghosts are out there.
Yes.
Probably haunting people.
Roaming around, yes.
Yeah. And so she really adores this idea. So she just wrote basically this story based on that. So one girl, Taiwanese girl, was looking for her father in Hamburg.
Okay.
And got involved into an accident and just got killed by a car.
Oh, okay.
And then became ghost. And she came back as a ghost. So it's actually kind of a spooky, artistic way, spooky take on Taiwan. Yeah.
How about the second movie offer?
And the second was a short film.
All right.
It was only 15 minutes.
Okay.
I got emails from people. They just said, okay, this director from Hong Kong who is based in Berlin is looking for an actor.
Okay.
And he sounds like you, so maybe you should go for the audition.
All right.
So I was like, okay, why not? I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
So I went to meet the director and the writer. We sat down, and he immediately gave me the part.
Okay, good.
And then we shot the film, and the film actually was selected in a lot of international short film festivals, even got into competitions.
Yes.
So it's been funny and wonderful. Yeah.
And since you are an actor, let me ask you about your impression or opinion about the Berlin Film Festival.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful occasion.
Of course. You had the Taiwan, director, Ann Lee, has done it very well, very well at the festival.
Yeah.
And how is that compared with other festivals that you might have been exposed to?
Well, I would say that the Berlin Film Festival, in German it's called Berlinale.
Okay.
It's very political. okay, because Berlin is a political city with its past. So I mean, the jury they tend to enjoy. I mean, giving awards to those films that are more of artistic and independent and political.
Okay.
So An Lee enjoyed great success there. Actually, his very first film, I would say, he made some short features in the past, but Pushing Hand was his first major work. It was featured in Berlinale, in Berlin Film Festival, and right away got attentions.
Yes.
And the jury, I mean, the administration of Berlin Film Festival really loved his work. He kept going back, and all of his films enjoy great success there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a wonderful occasion for Taiwan to expose themselves, actually.
Okay.
Because we actually, it's one of the occasions that we can actually call ourselves Taiwan. Okay. Because a lot of occasions we are Taiwan, and it's in brackets or something, it's China or something. It's really
Chinese Taipei.
Yeah, it's a very ambiguous situation.
Okay.
But because actually it's good work from the government, you know, they actually. They made it so we can actually call ourselves Taiwan. Okay, good. So it's a wonderful label. It's every country is there. I mean, literally, lots of countries from the world. I mean, they're there, and every film has their own party, their own films. And through these films, I mean, every time I'm in Berlin Film Festival, I'm watching these films. It's wonderful. It's nostalgic. You just get to see the landscape of the cities, the people, and it's a wonderful introduction to the island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we likely to see more films from Mr. Kevin Chen?
I do hope so. I mean, it's not exactly something I don't go for a lot of auditions. I don't have an agent. Okay. It's more like a hobby. So, but if anyone who's interested in me or something, you know, I could do anything. I don't care how big the part is because I just love the whole process of filmmaking. I'm
confident you're going to get plenty of offers after our program today.
I do hope so. Thank you.
And I understand that, Kevin, every time you come back to Taiwan, one of your favorite pastime is to visit bookstores.
Yeah.
And you have this personal ambition, maybe one day, that you can open a Chinese bookstore in Germany.
Yeah.
And how's that, ambition coming along?
Because I love books, and I really love books published in Taiwan because it's really a paradise of publications. Okay. We don't have censorship here. No. You can publish almost literally everything as long as they're legal.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful paradise. And I live in Berlin, and of course I can order books from online. Online, yes. And it can be shipped to Germany. However, that's really expensive.
Yes.
And I sometimes I'm in the city. I feel the need that, hey, we do have a community of Chinese-speaking people in the city. Oh. Why don't we have a nice bookstore that can allow people to get Chinese books? Yeah. And I started to leave messages on my Facebook pages. I said, my dream of the day is that I would want to open a bookstore in Berlin. Okay. And it's a Taiwanese bookstore, so I can sell books from Taiwan, traditional characters, Chinese characters, and of course books from China or Hong Kong or other parts of the world, and also those that are translated already into German. Okay. And I also want to have a room. Okay. A room in the back of the whole bookstore or something. Okay. So writers from Taiwan can sleep there. I mean, they can spend a month, 2 months in there. So they can live in Germany. They can live in Berlin, and in this bookstore of mine. It's a dream, though.
All right.
And then they can write about my bookstore or about Berlin, about their life. The obligation they should fulfill is probably they have to be the clerks once in a while or something.
Yeah, during the stay. Yes.
Something like that. But I want it to be a sharing space so that dancers from Taiwan can have a small performance there. Theater people can have a small presentations there. We can do readings, music performances, anything. And I also want to have like a bar, like a small bar. I can offer funny food from Taiwan, scary food from Taiwan.
Okay, yeah. You want to serve some like stinky or aromatic, tofu from Taiwan.
Which I'm sure will be illegal in Germany because it's so intense. But I would say that, I want to have some really authentic food, which I cannot get in Germany. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not a cook at all. So, this plan so far remains a dream. Yeah. But I do hope someday that this whole big plan could come true.
Let us know about your Facebook, then I am sure a lot of people will contact you.
I do hope so.
And also, one other thing you want to have in your bookstore instead of serving coffee, you want to serve Taiwanese tea.
Yeah.
Are you a tea drinker?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
I mean, every time I'm in Taiwan, I always buy lots of tea.
Okay, and bring back to Germany.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do love the loose tea and the oolong tea, and just
Okay.
wonderful. And they're so mild and just wonderful. And you know, it might be exaggeration, but every time I'm drinking Taiwanese tea, I do have the image of Taiwan in front of me.
Okay.
It's like a wonderful connection of
course.
scent, yeah,
Okay.
and of taste. It's just wonderful.
Okay. And let me ask you, Kevin, how big is the Chinese and Taiwanese population in Berlin, as far as you know?
I don't really know the official calculation, the official
Okay,
number.
numbers, maybe in the 100, 200?
I would say the hundreds or something, but it's getting bigger and bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of Taiwanese young students, they're going into Berlin because Berlin now enjoys the reputation of having a lot of options for art students
Okay.
or musical students.
Yes.
So a lot of students are now going to the city. So it's
Okay.
actually it's growing. And especially the Chinese community, actually, from mainland China, it's growing and growing.
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah, so it's growing. So I do see the potential of having a bookstore in Berlin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, for the final question on our program today, is that there may be a lot of people watching our program today after listening to you. They may want to go to Germany, maybe beginning as a tourist, but later on as a student or somebody who may want to work and live there. What would be your advice or recommendation before they start preparing and weaving their own dreams?
I would say that just go there with an open heart.
Okay.
It's not easy. Okay, the weather is awful in winter, and it gets really hot. And even could be humid in summer.
Oh, really?
And people could be cold.
Okay.
You could feel alone. But you know what? These are wonderful challenges. This city has so much to offer.
Okay.
Really. This city is, first of all, it's a cheap city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the city government is still broke. It's still bankrupt.
Okay.
And so it's actually the living cost is compared to other German cities and other European countries.
It's a lot more affordable.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can get actually a decent place to live with very little rent.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on that, and then just go out and explore,
Okay.
and stop asking for 7-Eleven, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, they're in Berlin, and after 3 days, they really miss home, and they're like, I really want 7-Eleven right now.
Okay, in my neighborhood, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
like 2 meters away, please. Yeah,
Okay.
but that doesn't exist. It's not that convenient, but it's a wonderful culture. It can find so much.
Okay.
I'm sure this city has so much to offer.
Good, Kevin. Certainly, along with most of the people who are watching our program today, I certainly enjoy our conversation very much. I want to wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And hopefully your dream of having a Chinese bookstore in Berlin will come, realize sooner than you think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for being on the program today.
you.
I want to thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on Macroview Television. Thank you.